Yeah, I mean, I would say on the business side, so I mean, I have, yeah, I think from idea creation and really just trying to get new products out the door. So, I think in both cases, we were able to kind of early on kind of figure out what is our core competence. And then, from that point, try to figure out what are the solutions that make sense. So, Riva was a case where I think early on we figured out that there was there was a need between kind of, so we started that company in 2000. And, at the time, there was already people that were trying to solve problems as it related to business performance. So, companies were getting a lot more efficient and they were using software to help out in the process of getting more efficient. So, they're streamlining what used to be manual efforts. So, you saw a lot of, like in the 90s, there was a lot of like, accounting automation. So, companies were buying tools so that it wasn't that there was, bookkeepers had spreadsheets separately. Like they would have these, client server systems that would allow you to, aggregate all the data in one place. So there was, companies were already starting to get efficient in kind of the back office part of their businesses. But the one area that was still kind of outstanding was compliance work. So, this is, we went after kind of highly regulated industries. And so kind of our first foray were into, into wineries, breweries, and distilleries. And so what we saw there is, these are largely kind of mom and pop operations or small and medium-sized businesses, but, they may have, spent money on kind of streamlining their business performance or their kind of their business workflow and using business performance tools. But compliance was still done by hand. So, you take into account something like a winery, there's all along the kind of winemaking process, there's paperwork that has to be filed with different regulatory agencies, whether that's at the state or at the national level. And at the national level, you have something like the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms. So, the chances of an audit or kind of the fear of that drove a lot of these businesses. So, they spent a lot of time and energy on compliance, that effort, and a lot of it was going up to the owners and the C-level executives at these companies. So you're talking about the highest paid people were spending a large percentage of their time dealing with this stuff, and no one had really tackled the process of kind of automating that workflow. So, Riva was really, we saw that there was an opportunity here to, create a process that would sit on top of existing workflow software and allow the same level of automation with compliance. So we took that model and we applied it to other industries. So, we were able to kind of, take that idea and grow with it. And along the way, we got money from venture capital firms like Sequoia, and we ended up selling the company to Oracle. That happened after I left, but that was kind of the fate of the company. Yeah, there's advice for raising money from venture capital firms, and there's also advice for just raising money from angels. I think so. Sometimes they're the same thing, and sometimes they're different. I think it's I've been involved in kind of the fundraising, kind of the challenge of fundraising for much of the last 13 years, and I'll tell you, it's changed a lot. When we were starting Riva in 2000, the market was very different. I mean, that was the kind of at the height of the dot-com boom. And, you would see, like I'd go to these meetings where we're pitching VCs, and, a lot of it was, or even angel pitches, and, you'd be pitching with other entrepreneurs, and people were getting money for, half-baked ideas. So they were just a little bit after the napkin phase, and they were already able to raise significant amounts of money. Nowadays, I think there's less of that kind of, investing on a hope or an idea. I think there's more of it, like you kind of have to establish, your business model and kind of and get customers in the door. So the cost of building your product and getting customers to use your product has gone down significantly. So, for me, you're much better off and you're having a much better, more fruitful discussion with VCs and with angels when you have a product that's out on the market and you have customers using your product. And Yeah, there's no better way to do that than with the kind of this whole app world that exists out there with whether it's on iOS or Android or these other operating systems. I don't know that there's a general answer for that, Alex. Yeah, it obviously depends on kind of what your model is. I mean, if we're talking, assuming kind of a consumer-oriented product or solution, I think having a freemium model makes a lot of sense in the sense that you can get to a critical mass of customers. And having customers interact with your product is the best way for you to get feedback on your product. Because even the most seasoned entrepreneurs are not going to be 100% correct as far as like what the solution needs to be. So you may come out there with an expectation like, well, my product does A, B, and C, and you're really proud about A, but customers really latch on to C. Then like that, it helps you kind of narrow in your focus and you kind of figure out where you need to spend your dollars. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of early on, there's not that many dollars, so you want to spend it in the best way possible, the most efficient way possible. So I think to the extent that you can get something out the door and get it into one of these app marketplaces and get customer feedback, then you can really kind of fine tune what your solution is. And then you can kind of, now you've got, once you kind of get that social proof, there's really a demand for digital family safety products. Once you have that in the door, then you're having discussions with VCs about, how to grow it from here, or how to generate more revenue. And I think those are much more discussions from you, the hypothetical question as to whether or not your idea has any weight. Well, the challenge for an entrepreneur is this, there's so much available to consumers for free. Things like Facebook don't cost us any money. I do Google searches all day long for free. I can get numerous apps. I have a 2-year-old. We have hundreds of apps for my 2-year-old, and most of them cost $0 or they cost 99 cents. So the cost of solutions, of software, is so much less than what it was, than when, I got my first computer in 1984, and, the kind of the expected price of software back in those early days was, $30, $40, $50, you'd shell out $100 for word processing software and you wouldn't think twice about it. And, nowadays if you are buying an app and it costs $2.99, you're like, whoa, this thing must be, this thing better cure cancer. It's $2.99. This is crazy. I can't believe they're charging that much for it. So that part puts a lot more pressure on entrepreneurs and business owners to make sure that they have a well thought out, well vetted product where if they're charging people for a service, then it better return the value to that customer. So in the case of .com, we're tackling the challenge of parenting, and I think the gamble that we're taking is that parents find that this is something they should pay money to have a service to help them on. So we're gambling that there's enough parents out there that don't mind spending a little bit of money every month so that they can have a little bit more peace of mind when it comes to their challenging parenting. I will say this. I was when we started off with Riva Commerce, and I that was a company that I started with two of my best friends. So we were kind of tackling this together. We were, like I said, what we were doing was very dry. We were helping small and medium-sized businesses with their compliance paperwork. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we were doing. Now, we were in the wine space, and we were in the beer space, and we were in the distillery space. So, there was some people were like, "Wow, that's really cool. I can't you work with wineries." But you're like, "No, at the end of the day, I'm helping them fill out paperwork. It's not, this is not the most sexy thing I've ever done." But along the way, what I realized that what I really enjoy is the kind of the entrepreneurial challenge, trying to solve problems where solutions don't already exist. And so, I think being an entrepreneur is what is really exciting. It's kind of a general and lame answer, but I think that's really what it is. I think the projects all kind of we work with, I'm dealing with a parenting solution right now. Before that, I was dealing with elections. It was each one of those things is very, at the core of it, you're trying to solve a problem where there isn't a solution before, and so that's really kind of the cool thing. It's like in your own way, you're like Lewis and Clark out there, on your own trying to figure out something. So that's always fun. There's a couple of things. I mean, the biggest challenge isn't one of intellect, or it isn't one of knowledge. You can have a lot of field specific knowledge. That really isn't it. I mean, I think the big challenge always comes down to managing people, because out of a few exceptions, everyone I know has times that are good and bad. Financing. Running a difficult thing. It's a skill that not everybody has. But I can tell you that across the board, at least every entrepreneur that I know, they never raise money quite at the scale that they thought. There's always going to be times. And so, when you have those kind of challenges, it always boils down to how do you manage people. The one thing that I will tell you is that people, you may have, if you quickly go from somebody who's, in charge of an idea and you're kind of on your own, you're working in your cabin somewhere in Michigan, to all of a sudden having employees. Now all of a sudden I've got 5 employees, I've got 10 employees. And, when you're still small, you're going to have those financial struggles, or you're going to have struggles where the technology doesn't work that well and your big customer's really pissed off at you. I mean, you're going to have those days. And the most important thing to do is to be honest with your employees. It sounds simple, but, sometimes honesty, integrity can take different forms. I'll give you an idea, or I'll give you an example. Let's say you're talking with an angel investor. They're going to put in a big chunk of money, and they told you that they're going to give you the money on Friday, and you're supposed to pay your employee Thursday. And so but you don't have the money yet. So you can tell your employees, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you. Like, one approach is just to say, yep, you're going to get paid on Thursday, and then actually just let it come into Friday morning and hope that you have the money and then pay for it then. The second solution is you can tell them, I'm not going to be able to pay you on Thursday, but I can pay you on Friday. The third solution is to say, I have no guarantees at this point. I am hoping to pay you on Friday. I have everything, everything tells me that, I've got this thing lined up and I should be able to pay on Friday, but chances are it may not be Friday. It may be sometime next week. I don't really know. I will tell you that third way to go works the best every time. It's the hardest discussion to have because people want guarantees and they want answers. But the first two will get you into problems because you can't control that situation. So, I think when all chips are down, just being honest with your employees and letting, finding the people that can stomach, the highs and the lows. And I think when you have that, you're going to, you find the right core of people that have that mentality, then you've got a strong base to build a team from.